And welcome back to the Unicorn Ventures Startup Acceleration Process. Go ahead and go to unicornventures.org to register. Now we're talking about the next step in the acceleration process, which is actually the customer development process. So like we always do, we start out by talking about the table of contents. First slide is always the startup acceleration process as a whole, and then we get into why do we do customer development in the first place, the customer development process, and then we go into the subcomponents of that process, which is latent need conceptualization and verbalizing, solution conceptualization and verbalizing, and commitment. So the startup acceleration process starts out with organizing or organization, goes into vision, values, and virtues, the market model, platform, evergreen content, content distribution, domain authority process, product market fit testing, list development and customer interviews, customer development, what we're talking about right now, team and financing. So why do we do customer development in the first place? Well, what we're really doing is we're now taking that list that we built and we're going to be nurturing that with content, with the selling or the customer development process in order to move them through the buying process. And we're going to talk about what that means. So customer development takes that list that you've built in either social media, via emails, and then attempts to convert these followers into users and then paying customers. This is accomplished by a content drip process on the platform and direct messaging to introduce yourself and facilitate the customer development process. So you can use that, for example, on Facebook, if you're doing a little bit of advertising on there to move them through a quasi funnel, which involves liking the page, facilitating that into a Facebook group, and then doing a content drip where you're actually getting a chance to interact with the individual user on a regular basis in order to nurture them with different touch points through that customer development process. So the customer development process mirrors the buying process, and we're going to talk about what that means in just a moment here. So the customer development process, this is really talking about the different steps within which somebody has to go through in order to become, a user and then a paying user. So it really starts out with latent need. This is when, and we're going to talk about this in just a second, but when somebody does it completely unaware or maybe has suppressed the actual knowledge of the need. And then we go into need conceptualization and verbalizing, solution conceptualization and verbalizing, and commitment. So in terms of a latent need, only a small percentage of the target market is currently in the conceptualized need phase of the buying process. This means that the target market is unaware of the current need, and we need to really awaken them. So this speaks to an awareness campaign. This speaks to being able to drip content through the questioning process to actually develop and conceptualize that need. Now that we've gone into need conceptualization and verbalizing, that next phase of the buying process is just that, which means that the individual has moved from a latent need to identifying an actual pain point or a problem and has developed it into a concept. And this concept can be referred to as a gap. So this is where we directly question the decision maker to admit that they have a problem or a gap that they are experiencing, and then we can move into the next step, which is actually solution conceptualization and verbalizing. And the reason we say verbalizing is it's very important to get the actual decision maker or the person to actually verbally state that there is in fact a gap and confirm that so that we can actually move towards developing a solution. So this is the next phase, and what we're going to end up doing is co-creating a solution together with the individual and getting buying in process through that individual process itself. So we're going to talk about what that means in the next slide. So once we have actually confirmed that our solution is a fit and we've closed and it's a fit to close the gap that we've verbalized, we can then recommend getting started. And this is actually a simple process. It's not a hard sell. When the person has admitted that there is a gap, meaning they have to conceptualize that need, when we've actually co-created a solution and they've admitted that the solution is a fit for closing that gap, it really is a simple recommendation. so that we've done this process of going through the actual customer development process, which is concluded with the commitment here. So that's it for the customer development process. Once again, it mirrors the buying process, so that's how we're going to actually tailor and design it. And this is, of course, the startup acceleration process. Go ahead and go to unicornventures.org to register. We look forward to having a conversation with you. Thanks.